Hello, everybody. Welcome to Secret Store CSI community meeting. Today is October 3rd, 2024. This call is governed by CNCF Code of Conduct. With that, we can move to our agenda. I'll moderate the meeting. Is anybody there who wants to take the notes?
I can probably take notes.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. Uh, I think first item I put on the agenda is from the last meeting which got cancelled. Abhijit had it on the agenda about his require publish PR, and I think he's rejoining. But I'm not sure we should wait for him or not. Oh, I think he's here. Okay, cool. So Abhijit, I added your PR on the agenda just because you had it last time and we didn't end up having the meeting. But unfortunately, I haven't got a chance to review it yet. I'm sort of swamped with some of the other tasks. Hopefully, I will get to it by like next in the next week. Do you have anything specific that you would like to talk about?
So meanwhile, if you can just add the label to OK to test. So if there are some E2E failure, I can fix it meanwhile.
Okay, let me do that right now. Okay, mm, should be testing now. Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Moving on to the next agenda item. So I think we have some new folks over here who have opened up the issues regarding the keyboard retries and things like that. Uh, I see Cyprian, you're here, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. We were
And
here 1 hour before. There was a
I see.
small typo in the, I don't know, in the document, so we got the wrong time.
Oh,
But so I'm the only one that could remain. But if you want to discuss those issues,
right,
sure. I don't think there's any
right.
problem.
Uh, Let me share my screen and then maybe probably that would be uh, just a sec. So I'm trying to figure out the screen share. Okay. I hope you're able to see the agenda item. Okay. So I think one of the reason we get throttled by the key vault is like the way the currently driver and provider is kind of set up, and we have sort of uh, provider being calling to the key vault for like each and every secret. Uh, but having said that, maybe we wanted to like sort of take a step back and first ask you like what is your use case, like how are you consuming these secrets, and the reason we are saying that is we have another project called secret store sync controller, which directly syncs your secrets as a Kubernetes secrets rather than mounting them on the volume as driver does today. So it's a same functionality, but like in the driver, the secrets needs to be first mounted on the volume, and then the sync controller will probably or the like our controller will probably just get that content and then create uh, Kubernetes secrets around it. So uh, I would like to understand like what is your use case first, and then maybe it would be better to address once we have the full picture.
So we have multiple workloads connecting to various key vaults and getting the secrets. I think so. Let me start a bit with the history. We were using some internal tool called Key Vault Watcher that was doing something similar. It was watching for secrets, and I think it was creating secrets, Kubernetes secrets from that. But due to the maintenance cost, we thought that the Secret Store CSI driver would be a good replacement option, considering that it's bundled with AKS. At least that's
Right.
my understanding, right?
Right.
So that's the only reason that we went with Secret Store CSI driver at the moment. There was no comparison with other solutions or things like that. Okay.
Okay.
And the reality is that we have huge clusters, huge workloads, thousands of pods. And I think some people are using it with a single key vault across multiple regions in some cases. And in the end, things get very bad with the CSI driver because of the throttling. I think this issue was one for raising awareness, and two, also to implement some exponential backup mechanism that might, how do you call, might reduce the pressure on the key vault. Because even after we did some things to mitigate the issue, it took a long time for the key vault to start responding due to the throttling. So I think that's the short version. Not sure if it was very coherent.
Right. So no, I mean thanks for the context here. Uh, so what I'm hearing is like you're primarily consuming the secrets on in the workloads using Kubernetes secrets, probably like as an environment variable or something like that. That's the correct understanding, right?
Unless there is some security aspect that I'm missing, I think we're good with this approach.
No, I mean, so the reason I ask is like the new project that we have created, right? It's specifically designed and created to address this particular thing. Like you necessarily don't want the secrets to be mounted on the pod of your like workload pod, but you can directly have them as a Kubernetes secrets, and you can fetch them from the key vault and then create them as a Kubernetes secrets. So so here is my proposal, and like there are two things to it. So first of all, like, would you be interested in trying out this new controller that we have, and like be an early adopter for this thing? So that would be really helpful, and it would, I think, also be helpful in your use case. The second aspect to it is we haven't done any scale testing yet, so I'm not sure how much it will go into this throttling issue with the keyword or not. So that might be also another aspect that we can probably explore together.
Okay, so agreed. These are two independent things. my guess is the exponential backoff would be something that should be implemented anyway in both controllers, right? In the end, if that's the case.
Maybe. So we do have a
Okay.
retry.
Yeah, please.
But I mean, we do have a retry mechanism, sort of. Like, for example, like the way the reconciler works is we have like a word queue, and if we get any error processing the work queue, we sort of add it back into the queue, and we have a certain time limit that we use it to add it in the queue, and like also like uh, we do. I'm pretty sure we do the rate limiting while processing the queue, so it should give certain uh, exponential back off, but I need to check like in detail how exactly would it will it help.
Okay.
Anish, do you
I think
have any
Mars,
insight on this? Sorry.
I'm not very deep into the issue. I think Marcelo maybe, you know Marcelo, I think you talked to him.
Yeah, I'm
If you
I'm
don't
I'm
mind,
talking
take.
with him offline.
Okay. So I think from the technical aspect, he's our best contact right now. The initial person that did the investigation is on a long vacation. So unfortunately, um, we had to pick it up and continue. So that's one thing. Regarding the new project, seems like an interesting thing. I cannot tell you right now, but basically we should keep in touch and discuss together in a larger group.
Right.
I'm not the person that can decide on that, but anyway, from the way I know that circuits work in Kubernetes, this would be a much less stressful uh, approach on the key vault, right? Because you will read the secret only once, and there is only one component that is checking for updates, and the rest of the pods are just taking it as a Kubernetes secret, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, do you mind if I have a question regarding this, sort of related?
Yeah, sure.
How
I'll
does
just
this
drop the link of the controller meanwhile.
Yeah, I know it. We were looking into it earlier today.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Don't worry. Um, I was wondering, how does this compare to the external secrets operator from your point of view?
So I think fundamentally both are doing the same job, but then where the commonality between probably this and the driver is like that we share the same secret provider class, where we define what type of secrets you want and which keyword you want to connect and things like that. So uh, the
So you're
user
saying that is more like a drop-in replacement for the secret store CSI driver compared to the
uh,
external.
No, it wouldn't be the replacement because we are trying to segregate the functionalities from the perspective of the driver. So in driver, the primary job of the driver is to mount the secrets on the volume or the CSI volume, and
Yeah.
the expectation is the application pod would consume. And we added the functionality on top of this to sync those mounted contents as a Kubernetes secrets. Uh, but then there are like a lot of use cases, or we have seen in the community where user do not want the mount to happen. Like they just want them those secrets to be directly created or synced as a Kubernetes secrets. So we are trying to remove the sync part of the aspect from the driver and creating this new sync controller where it will do just that, and it will be get then eventually get deprecated from the driver.
Okay, but in the end, to use the secret, you either have to have it as a environment variable, I guess, prefer to mount it the same as a file somewhere.
Correct, right. So that depends on how the workloads are consuming the secrets and hence the different use cases. Like there are workloads who would want to consume directly on the from the volume because it will be like more secure because it's like a temp FS volume. And then all you have to do is just watch for that volume mount changes or like the file changes when the rotation happens and things like that. uh, versus there are some use cases where application might need the secrets to as a part of like or they want it to be as a Kubernetes secret. So for example, like the ingress controllers, they want the secrets as a Kubernetes secrets. So there are like trade-offs to both of these things.
Okay, I think most of our applications expect the secrets to be in a directory from where they read them as files. So I don't think. Anyway, so even if they would be secrets, we would probably mount them to some pod directory container.
Okay.
But I think
So
these are details. Okay. Do you plan to add this to AKS in the long run? Or do you
what part?
the new controller?
Yes, so we do have a plan to provide this as a controller, and we are still hashing out the details as we take the controller from like alpha to beta to J in the upstream community. But we will add it either as part of the existing add-on that we have in AKS or probably create a separate add-on. We haven't decided yet.
Okay, but it will be managed add-on, so it will not require any additional maintenance from our end.
It wouldn't, but the way Secret Sync controller works is you would need to create a new custom resource to tell like which secrets you want to be synced as a
Oh,
Kubernetes secret.
we already do that. It's not a problem, that
Okay,
part. We do it as part of our deployments. The problem
perfect.
is one more component, custom component to deploy on hundreds of clusters. That's the main concern. Plus
Right,
vulnerabilities and other concerns.
right. So, so I think vulnerabilities should be fine because we will be addressing them. Being like an upstream project, like an open source project, we for driver also like we patch them like monthly, and we release the newer versions, and they get consumed back in the AKS. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
And I think also like installing and things like should be taken care by the add-on. So
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like we have lots of other components, and for them, it's quite painful to keep them up to date and mitigate all the vulnerabilities that are flagged by our systems. I'm sure that you're familiar with those things. Okay, so do you mind if we have a separate meeting sometime, probably next week, to discuss this?
yeah, for sure.
Cool. Okay, so I guess from my end, I will try to set it up with the right people.
Yeah. Feel free to reach out to me internally and I can help you.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Right. Sorry, I think Anish, do you have something to say? I see you getting unmuted.
So I was going to say so the driver always supported the sync as Kubernetes secrets, right? But the idea was the use cases that Nilek was talking about, right? It's some of them really need Kubernetes secrets to exist, which is why we added that on top of the existing driver. But in terms of the experience, basically they were coupled, forcing users to also mount in addition to syncing as Kubernetes secret. So based on what you said, it looks like your use case is you still want to use the driver. instead of the Kubernetes secret, and which is what we also recommend because the driver was introduced as a SIGAUT sub-project so that we can move users to using a more secure model rather than syncing as Kubernetes secret, right?
Yes, but it's
Specifically,
not very clear to me what the advantages are, secret versus volume. So right now, I don't, is this detailed somewhere?
sorry?
Do you have a document or place where you say, hey, secrets versus volumes, CSI volumes, what are the advantages and disadvantages?
It's already part of our upstream docs. Like in the Secrets to CSI driver, there is concepts where we talk about security. But the advantage is all of this is ephemeral volumes, right? So all the secrets are in memory. The only way someone can get access to it is if they have exec privileges into your pod. And even if your pod is distroless, then there is no way they can exec into it. But if you're storing it as Kubernetes secret, everyone in that namespace has access to it. And if RBAC is not configured properly, anyone in the cluster has access to that Kubernetes secret. And in addition to doing Kubernetes secret, everything stored in etcd is just base64 encoded, right? So that means if you're storing critical secrets as Kubernetes secret, then you also need to enable encryption at rest to make sure that all the data stored in etcd is actually encrypted using a KMS plugin. So Ingress is one scenario which still requires certs to be configured as Kubernetes secret because controllers depend on that. But otherwise, applications are mostly trying to move to the file system model because it's confined to the pod. It's in memory because it's tempfs, and execing into a pod is a very high privilege, which is usually not available to every user. So in terms of compromise, it's only specific to that pod rather than like having a Kubernetes API object which has all the secrets from your external secret store. So
Okay,
this
but
project
from
was
the
created with the intent to move users to use a more secure approach.
okay, but from the to get the pod has to have some kind of permissions to get to the key vault, right?
That is using workload identity, right? So most of the providers that are supported today use workload identity. So basically, it's the identity that's tied to the workload. So for instance, if you take like GCP or Azure and even AWS, right? They take the Kubernetes service account token that's bound to the pod, and then you configure whatever mapping you need on the cloud provider side. So basically, the provider uses that token and then something like OIDC and exchanges that and then accesses Key Vault. So if the controller, the provider pods don't need to have permissions of the Key Vault. Rather, it is you're tying the permissions to the actual workload that needs the secret. And the provider is just exchanging that token on behalf of the pod that needs the secret. And this is the model if you pick any project, right? For instance, in case of the controller also, like we have designed it in such a way that the permissions that you need to give are still for a particular workload. So you would still say a particular service account in a namespace is allowed to access a key vault or any external secret store. And what the controller does is it will generate a token bound to that particular service account and it'll exchange that rather than the controller itself having the high privilege of saying I can access any key vault.
Well, okay, so I agree with that, but it will get you into the scalability issues that we're seeing. The more pods you have, the more key vaults, well, you will not be in a good place when all the pods start requesting secrets or trying to check if there are any updates.
That is if you're using the driver, not if you're using the controller. The controller only makes one call per secret
Yeah.
provider class and the secret sync. But in case of the driver, yes. And that is what I wanted to mention, right? The thing is, from a driver's perspective, every individual request that comes in is for a pod, not on a higher level construct like a deployment or a replica set. The thing
Yes.
that we can do is we can try to get the pod information and try to do some kind of caching or single flighting on the driver. But again, the driver is a per node component. So any caching that happens only applies to that particular node. Like it's not distributed across all the nodes. So if you have a cluster that's 200 nodes, you might still hit those throttling limits just because your workload will be spread across all those nodes. And the best effort that we can do is try to make a single call for all the pods landing on that particular node. But if we use something like deployment or a replica set as a caching key, then that would still only apply to a particular deployment. So if you have multiple deployments being rolled out at the same time, that would still result in calls to key vault. So that has been an inherent behavior of the driver. Just because when kubelet calls the driver, it says, hey, this is just a pod. You need to go do something for this individual pod. And any kind of caching that we do is very specific to the driver saying, we can try and optimize something on a higher level, which is a deployment or a replica set.
Okay. So I'm good from this discussion point of view. As I said, we probably need to discuss it further separately, if you are okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Also like there's another aspect of it, right? Like the SDKs that are used on the provider side can also help with throttling. And given we are talking specifically about Azure Key Vault, I think it would be better for us to just have a separate discussion on this.
Okay, cool. As I said, I'll try to set up a call for next week and continue the discussion.
Sounds good.
I think there is another issue there on the list, still
Yes.
from us. I'm not very familiar with it.
Right. Yeah, I've been trying to go towards this. So, my understanding is like I'm not sure how this race condition can exist because when we create a service provider class, that is when actually I'm getting confused. Anish, do you know like if we start the mounting process before or like after we get creates the SPC?
So this has nothing to do with that, right? The thing is, we don't have any watches on these API objects, right? The time we actually mount is basically just kubelet calling us. And
Right.
kubelet will call the driver as soon as you create a pod with a volume mount request, right? Um, and once you create the pod, kubelet gets triggered, and then it'll call the driver on that node. And the first thing that the driver does is it says, okay, this pod is using me as the driver. And then it says, this is the SPC. So let me go get the secret provider class. At that point in time, if the secret provider class doesn't exist, we would error out and tell kubelet mount failed. But
Right.
at that point, if the version of the secret provider class you have doesn't have all the secrets that you need, that is the snapshot we'll use, like because it's that just-in-time snapshot, right? Like we will not wait for anything, because this is all one single process where kubelet says mount it, the driver has to go get it, do the mount, and then tell kubelet it's successful, and then kubelet will have to start the pod. So we can't really delay there, sit in a loop or do anything. But every mount, we will go and get the SPC, like the fresh SPC from API server, and whatever is the value at that time, we'll use it. But I think I briefly looked at it. I don't think this is any issue with the driver. I think the driver is working as expected. Like it's not exactly a race condition because whatever is the state of the SPC at the time of the mount is what we use. And if the SPC gets updated after the pod is running, that SPC update will be picked up during the next rotation cycle. And I think Jason summarized it. I remember chatting with Jason on it. He summarized it, the issues related to Helm execution, because I'm guessing you're using Helm to deploy it, and the SPC update doesn't happen before the pod actually starts running. So the first comment that Nilik you have on screen, that's I think, a good summary of what they are doing while deploying.
I see.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for the comment.
I think those were the only agenda item. Oh, the driver release. So I'm thinking about cutting the driver release early next week. Do we have any features that or I think those will be just security patches, I think. But I just wanted to bring that up and like just give the heads up.
Maybe our metrics PR, if we manage to finish it.
Right. Oh, so I saw your email. So this is what I wanted to chat. Thanks for bringing that up. You said it's not that important, right? So I would rather have the user, I finish the PR with.
There is no, so we cannot. The person is on an extended maternity leave. Sorry.
Can somebody else from your team pick that up?
We can recreate the PR. So if that's okay with you, with the changes that but we don't have permission. It's an account, right? To do the same PR. So we can recreate it if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I think should be good.
I think it's fine to recreate the PR. I will just say, just have two commits. Like in the first commit,
it's
just
okay.
have the other person.
Yeah, will preserve the credits from the first commit, and we'll just add the additional changes. Okay, it's so if we manage to recreate it and do the changes that you suggested, do you think that it might be picked up in the release?
I don't think in this release because I'll probably just start cutting the release early next week, like Monday or Tuesday. So most likely it will be in the following month release. So we have like a monthly cadence.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody wants to chat about?
You mentioned talking about the SSC bug.
Which bug could you elaborate?
The controller not reconciling on an update if the secrecy changes.
Right. Let me see. I haven't got a chance to look at that yet, but it's on my radar. Okay.
The second one down.
Yeah, I'll take a look at this. Probably I'll do some homework and then maybe in the next community meeting we can chat about it.
Sure.
Or I'll update the issue.
I think the other thing is we also want to prioritize the 0.0.2 release, right?
Yeah. Let me see real quick.
Do you want to put that bug in 0.0.2? Just because, but I don't know how you decide what goes in what.
That looks critical to me. So I think we should have it. I'll add it to this milestone. Oh, the other thing is, Alex, the bug that you're working on, right? Do you want to chat about that, like the capability version, or actually the bug that Anish created, this one? Do you want to chat about this thing? So the bit of the context behind this is the Kubernetes version matrix that we had. I sort of upgraded that to start from 128, and WAP is in beta on 128 and 129, if I remember correctly. And from 130 onwards, it's on the it's a GA. And when we set and we test the cluster, we need to just set alpha and beta flags correctly while creating the kind cluster. Yeah. What were your observations, Alex?
I haven't looked at it since we last spoke, so I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, because I think you have a comment here, right? Like, did you enable? I'm pretty sure Anish has enabled the flag while testing this on 128, right, Anish?
Yeah.
So I did some testing on this. And if I remember, it was like, I think it's 3 weeks back now. What I found was it was for sure failing for 127 because the WAP policies that we have uh, were having some problems, like the cell expressions basically. So my assumption there is, and I didn't get time to sort of go deep into it, but my assumption is some of the things that might have been added in beta or like GA. Basically, there are like breaking changes in there. So that's why it didn't, the same policies were not working on 127. But I think I was able to test it on 128, provided like we set the right beta flag while creating the cluster. So I think, Alex, what needs to be changed over here is whenever we create the cluster, we just make sure that whenever we set up the client cluster, we have to just make sure that those flags are being correctly set up. We do, uh, I'm trying to remember, hang on. Now, check real quick. Good setup. I think, Alex, what we need to do is this. We need to have this configurable, this part, which we don't have today, I think.
Sure.
Okay. I'm trying to think whether that matters or not, but maybe it's good. We can, I mean, if we do some checks on that.
What is do you know why that if the capabilities PR is failing in
Just a sec.
I think that was just the image stuff, right?
Yeah,
That you had to update.
correct. I think it is passing since then. I'll tag it accordingly and then I'll ping it.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe after the driver release, let's see when we want to get the controller released this month, maybe later
Yeah.
end of this month.
Yep. Okay, cool. I think we are through our agenda. All right. See you folks 2 weeks from now. Bye.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.